You've got to get Eddie through time and space, heaven and hell, the works. It's a shoot 'em up, which we promise will outshoot them all.
Big talk.
Probably too big. Hello, and welcome to Maiden Voyages, a podcast where we journey through the peerless discography of the greatest heavy metal band, Iron Maiden. Today we're taking a slight detour and visiting an odd bit of the discography, the game Ed Hunter, which is technically a disc. So I think it counts in the discography.
Ah, I see what you did there.
Yeah, I think that works.
It is indeed a disc.
Yeah.
Should we introduce ourselves?
Yeah, as ever, we are...
Well, I'm Blev, an historian of sorts, and I am an Iron Maiden... I'm an Iron Maiden nerd.
Nerd.
Yeah, I'm a nerd.
Okay. That's really underwhelming compared to your normal...
I'm running out of words. I'm just an Iron Maiden super nerd.
Okay, all right. I'm Sam, a journalist of sorts, and I'm an Iron Maiden... I guess I am an Iron Maiden nerd, but I need something lower than you. Teacher's pet?
Dweeb.
Iron
Maiden dweeb.
Hall monitor? Library monitor? I don't know. What are those things?
Yeah, an Iron Maiden. I quite like the Iron Maiden library monitor.
Okay, I'm an Iron Maiden library monitor. I feel like that's bigger than nerd. But anyway, that's not the point.
Fair.
Well, how are you doing?
I'm good. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is technically the end of season 3, which, even though it's several months late, it's still valid.
What do the people want, Sam? Come on, it's...
I think they want more consistently delivered
The
quality
podcast is
content.
a movable feast.
Yeah, we can't offer consistent quality or consistent timings. So
So take what you get. That's the message of this podcast.
that's the spirit.
And you'll be grateful.
Okay.
And when
all
I finish berating them, give us money on Ko-fi as well,
right.
if that's still a thing.
It is still a thing.
Oh,
Yeah.
there we go. What
Yeah.
a great plug for that.
Actually, that brings us on to something relatively important. I say important. None of this is important. But we have a new social media channel. We
do.
are on Blue Sky now because X is increasingly weird. We're still on X, but you can find us on Blue Sky at maidenpod.bsky or however it works. Just search for Maiden Voyages. I'm sure we'll turn up.
I've yet to get on Blue Sky, but I'm sure it's great.
It's so far just me. I'm really doing a lot of heavy lifting here.
I've heard it's the best account on Blue Sky. That's what I've been told.
From me. Yeah. Right, should we get into it? I've got a rare outing of Pedant's Corner
Oh,
based
it's
on
back.
our Brave New World episodes.
Fans of Pedant's Corner from 2 years ago, rejoice.
Yeah. I mean, it's really pointless pedantry, but I've made the notes, so I'm going to say them. In part 1 of Brave New World, to confirm the very important stuff, we weren't sure if Superboc, the beer, was Portuguese. It is Portuguese.
Good.
It's a Portuguese beer, which makes sense because I heavily associate it with the time I went to Portugal.
Good stuff.
Drank a lot of Superboc.
Never tried it.
It's a good lager.
Is it?
Good. Yeah.
Does it taste like most of the other continental lagers?
Yeah.
Yeah, great, good.
Solid. Onto more heavy-hitting stuff, I guess. So we talked a bit about, across both the Brave New World episodes, about Blaze's contribution to Brave New World in terms of songwriting and the sort of mystery that's shrouded in, and how involved he was in like demoing material and stuff. I wanted to try and find out anything more about it. I found an interview with Blaze where he basically confirmed he had a hand in writing Dream of Mirrors, which I think you mentioned before, and he had gone as far as to demo Blood Brothers at some stage.
Interesting.
And I decided to take things a bit further, and this is me being a librarian monitor nerd, but I looked at 2 databases for songwriting publishing, the ASCAP, ASCAP. I don't know how to actually say it out loud.
Wow, okay, where the hell did you, what? Okay, fine, yeah, go on.
And the BMI, this is journalistic integrity.
Yeah, this is like a freedom of information request. This is huge.
Yeah, it's a little bit like that. It's much lower stakes, but I was just curious to see, so basically these databases for every song that's registered with them, which most songs are registered on some publishing database will write down legally who is the official songwriter on that. So who's getting the royalties, all that jazz. Unsurprisingly, looking at Brave New World, most of it goes to Stephen Percy Harris.
Stephen Percy.
Yeah,
Okay.
didn't know that middle name.
No.
So that was new information to me.
It's a scoop, folks.
It is a scoop. So most of it goes to Steve Percy Harris. But so unsurprisingly, none of it legally has Blaze's name on it, which I'm sure, makes total sense. But I couldn't find listings for Blood Brothers. So every other song on the album was registered, but Blood Brothers wasn't. And actually Fallen Angel, I don't think, was registered either. And this is wild speculation and could A, come down to me just missing something very obvious, or B, just be a big nothing burger. But I did think it was interesting in particular that Blood Brothers was missing, as if they don't want to put on the record, the official legal record, who wrote the song.
That is interesting.
Because if Blaze demoed it, listening to the song, out of most of the songs on Brave New World, it's the one that I can imagine Blaze's voice working the most for.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Yeah,
so maybe he had slightly more of a hand in it than we might imagine. I know the narrative around it is Steve wrote it about his father, I think, shortly after his passing. But I don't know. Maybe Blaze had more of an imprint on it, we expect. Maybe I don't know how to research through a database and miss something very obvious. But yeah, so that's as far as my journalistic investigation got. The only other thing actually was I did notice that Blaze has recorded like acoustic versions of Blood Brothers as well. So he definitely has a fondness for the song as well. But yeah.
It's good sleuthing, Sam.
Sleuthing with no real answers, but I wanted to add some fuel to a speculative fire, I guess.
This is where we doorstep Steve and go,
Steve, did you write it?
To write, Cyrus.
Is it about your dad? Or is it? But
where's the publishing rights, Steve? Show me the checks.
I fell into like a really weird rabbit hole of Iron Maiden subreddit posts where people are saying Iron Maiden have a habit of paying off ex-members for songwriting, like in lieu of giving them songwriting credits. And there's a suspicion that a lot of Brave New World involves that, but who knows?
Well, there's a lot of chat about the song Sanctuary, isn't there? We had this conversation. Rewind however many episodes.
Way back in the first few episodes.
Because it's the only song that's very vaguely just credited to Iron Maiden as songwriters rather than naming individuals. Yeah. So, yeah, there's something going on there.
There's something odd. Yeah.
Hey, I hope Blaze gets his little bit of cheese, a little bit of Brave New World cheese for him.
Yeah. I wonder, I found that acoustic version of Blood Brothers. I wonder if he tends to play it at all at his live shows.
Don't know. Well, we might be going to see him, mightn't we?
Yeah, hopefully we'll see him in Swansea, celebrating the 25th anniversary of Silicon Messiah?
Yeah, it would be. Yeah, 25th anniversary of Silicon Messiah.
And I imagine he'll play some Maiden songs.
Good album.
Yeah. It is a good album. It's really interesting listening to a Blaze album with good production, you know?
It's our friend Andy Sneap again, isn't it?
Good old Andy.
Twiddling the knobs.
Old Andy. Please don't say that. The last thing for Penance Corner is in the last episode, Brave New World episode, we forgot to do the whole chart position thing.
Yes.
So I hope you've prepared something.
I am prepared. Yeah, apologies, because that was... By that point in the record, I was probably thinking, I really want a kebab at this point. It's just...
I'm done chatting.
Yeah, I've talked about Iron Maiden. I need some Donna meat. But let's rectify that now. So what we should have done at the end of the last episode is we would have thought, well, where did Brave New World chart? How did it do in the charts? So
how did it do?
Well, why don't you tell me, Sam? What are your guesses? So Brave New World, the first comeback album of Bruce, UK album charts, 2000. Where do you think it landed? Bear in mind the very disappointing performance of Virtual 11 as predecessor.
The thing is, I feel like Bruce coming back would reignite the very fervent Maiden fan base enough to all go out and buy it. Mm-hmm. But it's 2000 where music charts actually meant something rather than like nowadays when Maiden can get number one album because only 10 albums are sold a week.
And just to inform your answer a little bit, there is some tough competition this week in 2000.
I'm going 7.
Oh, he's hit it bang on the head. It was in at number 7, peaking at number 7.
What was above it?
Well, let's play what was in the albums, the top 10, at the start of June in 2000. This is very much of an now living memory. So
yeah, I know. We were 11.
Yeah. Do you have memories from when you were 11?
No.
No. It's all a blur up until a few years ago, really.
I don't know. I throw some Robbie Williams in there somewhere. I mean, Millennium would have been the year before, so
yeah, no Robbie. Sorry. I mean, you're very much. This is very much Robbie's era, but
yeah,
it's not his week.
All Saints. I feel like I always say All Saints. Sugar Babes.
Nope. Some big pop stars in here of that time.
Kylie Minogue.
Nope.
This is around her big resurgence.
Shall I just tell you?
Yeah, just tell me. This is agonizing.
Number 1, a favourite of yours, a new entry, so came out the same week as Brave New World, but beat it by 6 places in the charts. Crush by Bon Jovi.
That got to number 1 in the UK.
Yeah, straight in at number 1.
Wow.
Yeah, well, it was huge, wasn't it? Well, presumably because it had already been preceded by It's My Life, which was massive.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was sort of like the beginning of like the third phase of Bon Jovi's career at this point. Like the last big resurgence Bon Jovi had. Yeah,
they never really kind of reached that height again, did they?
No.
I mean, they're still huge in their own way, but yeah.
I mean, you don't really need a 4th resurgence. Once you get to 3, you're gold. You're fine.
And also, poor John's voice is kind of gone anyway. So
yeah, that Bon Jovi documentary on Disney Plus is
great watch.
Yeah,
very depressing.
Yeah.
Crush was a good album.
Yeah, I'm not sure I've listened to the whole thing, to be honest.
No, I probably only know about half of it. The first Bon Jovi song I ever heard was on Crush, and it wasn't It's My Life. It's a song called Two Story Town, which is just like this good sort of alt rock depressing song.
I've never
big fan of it.
Never heard that song.
I recommend it.
Number 2, you've got Whitney Houston's Greatest Hits. A bit of a cheat.
Yeah.
They're still allowing... Oh, Greatest Hits in the charts still? Yeah, Greatest Hits are, just not compilations, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
Number 3, another big name, the Marshall Mathers LP.
Okay.
Second week in the chart.
Nice.
Number 4...
I remember my brother bought the single Hi, My Name Is and played it in the car with my parents in the car. My parents had a very stern talk with him afterwards.
Is that off that LP or the Slim Shady LP?
Oh, maybe it was off the Slim Shady LP.
Yeah.
Either way, it was age inappropriate.
Yes.
Let's put it like that.
Number 4, local boy, Tom Jones Reload. It's number 4 in the charts, right? So it's still at number 4. By this point, it's been in the charts already for 36 weeks.
With good reason.
Yeah, but I mean, wow, fair play to Tom Jones.
But also,
that album was massive, wasn't it?
It was huge. It was huge in the same way that Supernatural by Santana was.
Oh, funny you should mention that.
Is that in the charts around the same time?
It's still at number 15, yeah.
Because both these albums are old stars getting lots of modern people involved in their music, and it just kind of lifts everything, right?
Number 5...
One really missed opportunity with that Tom Jones album is having a duet with Bruce Dickinson. That would have been hilarious.
Well, Bruce, he sung Delilah, didn't he?
Yeah.
Have you seen that footage of him in that game show doing Delilah?
Yeah, exactly. It would have been a great duet.
But I think the thing is that, and we'll talk about this later on, I think Tom Jones was trying to capture the zeitgeist of the time.
Yeah, that's why it's manic, stereophonics, cardigans.
Bruce Dickinson from Iron Maiden was probably not really going for that sort of zeitgeist.
Maybe once Brave New World was out, maybe then it would make sense.
Maybe. Although arguably still probably no. But
I mean, at that point, Maiden are still they're not zeitgeisty and they're not mainstream.
No, they're not. No, they are not. Number 5, Upside Did It Again by Britney Spears. Interestingly, only peaked at number 2.
Yeah.
You'd have sworn that had been a number 1, wouldn't you? That was huge.
Yeah. So huge, Children of Bodom covered it.
Yeah, exactly. I was about to say a great cover. Not sure it is a great cover, actually.
It is
a very silly cover.
It's a very silly cover with a surprisingly tasteful guitar solo.
Yeah. Good for them. Well done. Rest in peace. Number 6, Play by Moby.
Okay.
Number 8,
Never got into Moby.
Onka's Big Mocha by Top Loader,
Okay.
which I presume is the...
I assume has Dancing in the Moon.
No, I think this is the disappointing follow-up to the one that does have Dancing in the Moon.
Okay.
Right? It only peaks at number 5. Number 9, 2001 by Dr. Dre. Big record.
Good album.
Number 10, Simply Red's Greatest Hits.
That's good.
And then there's some other stuff in the top 20 that's not all that interesting, to be honest. But yeah, so some big competition for Maiden.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because really from this point on, we're kind of used to Maiden albums, like you said, albeit the charts have totally changed and CD sales, physical bands that can ship physical copy like Iron Maiden are sort of massively disproportionately represented in album charts compared to their actual popularity, as massive as they are, just because physical sales are still weighted quite heavily.
Yeah.
But we're sort of used to Maiden going in now at 2 or 1.
Yeah.
Basically every time they put out a new album. So it's just interesting that even with all the hype in the metal world, at least around Brave New World,
They're still in it.
they're still in the top 10. Yeah. They weren't in the top 10 for Virtual 11. I think the X Factor got in the top 10, didn't it? Or just outside the top 10?
I would have to refer to the episode.
I would have to refer to the episode. And indeed, you listening at home should refer to the episode if you've not. This is good background contextual listening. But yeah, just like a very decent, promising showing.
Yeah.
For, the 21st century version of Maiden. But I guess what is not a particularly promising omen for 21st century Maiden is what we're going to talk about, which is...
Oh, sorry. I wasn't aware you were teeing me up, Sam. But that does explain why you were looking at me quite intently.
Yeah.
Ed Hunter. We're going to talk about Ed Hunter, the game that Iron Maiden put out in 1999.
Now, I think it's only fair at this point. Do you want to kind of lay your stall out? Because you are something of an authority on video games.
I mean, that makes it sound very formal, but I really like video games.
And in a professional capacity, you have in the past.
Okay.
So don't hide your light under a bushel. Is that the expression? Don't hide your light under a bushel, Sam.
Okay. Well, yeah, I am a video game enthusiast. Particularly love retro video games, but also my day-to-day life. I've worked for video games companies for 7 or 8 odd years. I don't anymore, but I used to. I think I'm quite knowledgeable on the topic.
The civil service, Sam, advising the government about video games.
Yeah, that didn't last very long.
Well, but, who was Prime Minister at the time? What was it? Cameron, Johnson, Theresa May?
It was, I don't even remember. I guess it was Johnson.
But when Johnson has a question about video games, he picks up the phone to you.
Well, it's my boss.
Yeah, who then refers it down to you. And then passes it back up the food chain to Johnson.
Yeah, sure. That's not quite how it works.
Okay.
It's a simplification. My expertise was much more around marketing video games, which was quite fun.
Well, we can talk about the marketing of Ed Hunter.
Well, I will come on to it a little bit.
Right.
But before we get into Ed Hunter, its history, its reception, all that jazz, I've got a B quiz or B.
Oh, there's a quiz. Happy days. Let's go.
All right, question 1, Blevin. You ready?
Okay, yeah.
When Ed Hunt, I mean, these questions are quite easy, so you're going to get them all. Okay. But I really struggled to write questions. When Iron Maiden first announced that they were making a video game, what was it called before it was called Ed Hunter?
Oh, I don't know. It was called Melt, wasn't it?
It was. It was called Melt.
Worst name for
Awful name. Awful name.
I'm glad they changed that.
Yeah.
I mean, Ed Hunter still isn't great, but it's better than Melt.
It is better than Melt. Technically 2 separate games, but we'll come on to that.
Oh, okay.
Question 2. Who developed Ed Hunter?
Oh, what, like the company?
Yeah. Actually, this is quite a hard question, to be honest.
Nintendo? I don't know.
Nintendo?
I don't know.
Do you think if Nintendo produced an Iron Maiden game, it would be a flop? they would make something very good.
Wow. I was just reaching for a game company.
Okay, that's fair. It's a company called Synthetic Dimensions.
Yeah, never heard of them.
Yeah, that's about right. What's the name of Iron Maiden's current video game that is about to close its doors?
Oh, is it about to end?
Yeah, I think they're shutting it down shortly.
Oh, it's Legacy of the Beast, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, okay.
Which I have to say I've never played.
I downloaded the app and forgot. So I haven't played it either. I was meant to play it before doing this podcast, but here we are.
That's a great bit of customer feedback. What did you think of Legacy of the Beast? I downloaded it and then I forgot about it.
Yeah, not ideal. I just
Great tour, though. Great tour.
Yeah.
That's all I cared about.
Yeah.
That tour was amazing.
I don't tend to play games on my phone very much, so I find it a bit awkward.
Because I'm not a 12-year-old boy.
Well, I mean, the exception is I've recently been playing the Pokemon card game on my phone because I am a 12-year-old boy at heart. And that's pretty fun. Okay, final question is more just sort of like a bonus round.
Okay.
So Iron Maiden produced Ed Hunter, but they're not the first or the last band or musician to have a video game tie-in. Can you name me any other video games released by bands or featuring bands other than Guitar Hero?
Oh, I was going to go for the Metallica Guitar Hero. Does this extend to like arcade games?
Yeah, absolutely. Any format. Console, arcade, PC, whatever.
There's like Kiss Pinball, isn't there?
Well, there's a Kiss pinball machine, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, not pinball tables. There's Metallica. There's pinball tables of everything. There's a Maiden pinball table, which I played in Brooklyn a couple of years ago. It was good fun.
Game, sort of. I don't know. Megadeth Street Fighter.
I mean, that sounds sick. I would play that.
Just having Dave Mustaine as like a playable Street
It's just
Fighter
Dave
character.
Mustaine versus all the cast of Street Fighter.
What was that? What was it? Does Brutal Legend count? That had some metal people in it, didn't it?
I think that counts.
Okay,
I'll count
Brutal
that.
Legend.
You get 1 point.
Okay. Go on, tell me some others then.
Okay, I can tell you about quite a few. So I'm going to give you just a handful. One of the earliest ones is Journey's video game, Escape, which was on the Atari. And basically, the Atari, for anyone who doesn't know, is just a very, very old 8-bit console. I think Escape must have come out in the early 80s at the latest. And the game is you are a member of Journey trying to get to your car after a show, trying to avoid fans, tour managers, and all of that. And that's what the advert paints it as.
Data 8 presents the world's first rock video game, Journey Escape. The concert's over. Now you must help each member of Journey escape through mobs of love-crazed groupies, shifty-eyed promoters. I can get you the forest.
That's not nice. Well, don't avoid your fans, your tour manager. Your tour manager's probably got useful information to you. Your fans are just this.
I don't know. But I mean, you see screenshots of the game and it's literally you're a square trying to find a different color square. These other squares are trying to kill you. It's a stretch to even call it Journey affiliated on any level.
Does the square look like Neil Sean? Or
No.
That's a shame.
There is a Motorhead game on the Amiga.
All right.
Which just seems to be a series of mini games. One which is based on a game called Root Tapper, which is like an old arcade game where someone slings beers down a bar at you and you have to grab the beers. So it's just Lemmy grabbing those beers. And then there's also like a beat 'em up in it where Lemmy's just fighting people.
Why not?
It's kind of fun, kind of cute, kind of weird. There is Crew Ball for the Sega Mega Drive, which I believe I've shown you at some point.
You have, yeah.
And is appalling. And has these terrible 16-bit renditions of Motley Crue songs. And one thing I had as a kid growing up was a game called Revolution X, which is a arcade shooter. I had it on the Mega Drive that, for reasons I still don't really understand, features Aerosmith. Like, they're just in it, and it's set at Aerosmith gig, but you're fighting like this New World Order terrorist group by throwing CDs at them.
Cool.
And members of Aerosmith appear, and it is a bad game. It is just a bad game.
Yeah, that sounds. Yeah, how does stuff like that get off the ground?
I don't know. I do not know.
Steven Tyler was just coked out of his mind, and someone
Pitched it to him. It was like, will
"Do you
there
want a
be
big
money?
check to go buy some more coke?" Yes,
Yeah.
please.
There's also, on the Sega Dreamcast, there is Psycho Circus, a Kiss video game.
Oh yeah.
It's quite bad, but it is better than Ed Hunter, as we'll come
Oh,
on to.
interesting. Okay.
And it's sort of a similar premise in some ways. But the only other game that I discovered that I hadn't heard of before, and I watched, I don't know, like 20 minutes of video footage of it as research, was another PC game called Wild Hunting Adventure featuring Ted Nugent. And it is not good.
Is it? Are you just Ted Nugent with a bow and arrow hunting bison?
Broadly, yes.
immigrants.
You're not Ted Nugent. You're being guided by Ted Nugent. So it's intersected with all these clips of Ted talking about like the beauty of hunting.
There's two types of tracking. There's the tracking where you're looking for game, and then there's the tracking where you're looking for hit game that you've already made a shot on. First, we'll talk about tracking game to make the shot.
But yeah, it's Ted Nugent kind of telling you how to hunt, and then you go and hunt in these very bad 3D environments, and Ted Nugent congratulates you. And I felt like my soul was leaving my body as I was watching clips of it. It was so dull and so uninspiring.
I'd also just like to clarify that comment I was made about immigrants, I was being Ted Nugent, everyone.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is alt-right nut job Ted Nugent.
Yeah.
Good guitar player.
He released some good music if you ignore the lyrics.
Just mad as a box of frogs.
Just quite a hateful person, really. Really likes guns and not anything else.
I'm glad. Into 2025, we are still the wokest Iron Maiden podcast on the market.
I mean, I'd hope any Iron Maiden podcast would decry Ted Nugent, but let's not get into that.
Wow, indeed. Leave Ted alone.
No.
What's he ever done other than marry a minor, dodge the draft?
Married a minor who he,
Racist.
if I recall correctly, got legal guardianship of in order to marry her,
Yeah.
which is all kinds of messed up.
Well, to be fair to Ted, he did want to make sure it was all above board in the eyes of the law. That is the biggest loophole he could find to do it. So, you know.
Oh, God, what a disgusting man.
Should we talk about Ed Hunter?
Let's move on to nicer things. So I'm basically going to treat this, if anyone hasn't clicked, I'm basically doing Blevins' role today, which is a strange new world for me. So I'm going to treat this like you do your history lessons for every other episode.
Yeah. And I occasionally chirp up.
And you occasionally chirp up with witty repartee.
Interesting.
Yeah. That's all I
Tell
usually
me
offer.
more, Sam.
Oh, yeah.
I'm so fascinated by your
Great.
thoughts.
Lovely. Cool. Okay, so let's talk Ed Hunter.
Yeah.
So Iron Maiden decided to make a video game, enter Melt. So not Ed Hunter, Melt.
What sort of time? When does this start though? What sort of year are we talking here?
Well, I was about to come on.
Sorry. I need to.
You can't jump in at the first sentence.
This is what I do with the kids I teach as well. Every time they ask a question, I was like, if you just let me finish.
Great teaching.
Yeah.
So before we get exactly into the time frame, I mean, it was 1996 that Melt's got announced. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the why they're making a video game in 1996. So I couldn't really find any documentation where they're saying we're making a video game because of X, Y, and Z. But I think we can kind of speculate a few things. The mid-90s was quite a big time of change for gaming. Previously, you know, up until that point, you'd only get things like 3D video games in arcades. That's where the powerful hardware was. But in the mid-90s, with the onset of Sony's PlayStation, Sega's Saturn, Nintendo 64, 3D graphics were coming home. Video games were starting to become sort of cutting-edge technology in the home. And I think on top of that, particularly with PlayStation, some of the image around gaming was changing. So PlayStation did a really strong marketing job around the original console where they made it seem like a device for adults, young adults, cool adults, associated it quite heavy with rave culture and sort of counterculture stuff. Kind of gave it I don't know, like maybe a little bit of a Cool Britannia vibe in a way,
Yeah.
at least in the UK.
Getting off your head on pills, playing Tomb Raider. This is
Well, playing like Wipeout, right?
Yeah.
Or like Resident Evil. Yeah, I guess Tomb Raider as well. And actually, yeah, Tomb Raider is a good example. Lara Croft was a big cultural icon around then on Lucasade ads in all her weird polygonal glory. So they were very zeitgeisty, right? In the mid-90s, video games, consoles. But Iron Maiden obviously weren't. Right.
Enter Iron Maiden.
And like I think they were really fishing for credibility at that point. I guess 1996, you've had the X Factor come out. It's not good. It's not as bad as Rep, but it hasn't done well, right?
No.
But making a game kind of seems like, well, if we can tie ourselves to this modern cool thing, that's probably quite good PR and marketing for Iron Maiden as a whole, at least in terms of trying to just bring them into the modern 90s culture a little bit. That's all wild speculation for me, but I suspect that's probably the big driving factor, right?
Yeah, that makes sense to me. And I think it's sort of odd for kind of a very, Maiden in some respects are quite a nuts and bolts metal band in some ways. But
Quite workmanlike in many ways.
But they have always prided themselves on being, I'm not sure how true this is, but the band like to say we were one of the first bands to have a website.
Yeah.
And we were one of the first bands to have a message board. And
I believe the first band to have a website was Megadeth.
but yeah,
with
you know
Megadeth
what?
Arizona.
That was actually quoted in a book I read by the historian Alwyn Turner about history of the 90s, of Britain in the 90s. And
Went live to celebrate the release of Euthanasia.
Indeed, yeah, and he makes that exact point in his book, yeah. So
you're beaten to the punch, Maiden.
But yeah, so they were indeed beaten to the punch, but they were sort of there at the forefront of this stuff, right?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
They for whatever reason they seem to be kind of quite proud of their tech cred.
And so I think a game was another extension of that, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess particularly if you think a couple of years after even announcing Melt, you've got Virtual 11, which is sort of desperately clawing at trying to be part of the cultural zeitgeist. Like, there's a VR headset and 3D videos and
a World Cup.
A song about a virus.
Yeah, no,
World
exactly.
Cup.
A virus. Yeah, it's very Y2K, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sort of that odd end of the millennium techno anxiety, but also excitement kind of vibe. That you feel like Maiden were probably not the best placed people to capitalize on that.
Absolutely not. And I think it's sort of telling that the first mention of Melt that I can find, it seems to be that Best of the Beast compilation that comes out in 1996. So when that's released, the original pressings were adorned with this very vague red sticker that said, and I quote, "Available soon, ... Melt, Eddie's own state-of-the-art 3D game." Nothing else. That's all you're getting.
Yeah.
But I think it's like quite telling that it's like 3D game. Come on, we're cool, guys.
Yeah. And they clearly thought this thing was around the corner, right? If they're bothering to advertise it, and
so
tee it up in that way.
Yeah, the development history of the game is weird in that it sounds like it's meant to come out at any moment, but it doesn't. But one thing I am more like I couldn't find any information about was it'd be interesting to see what fans made of like that sticker and that announcement at the time, because I don't know. Whilst nowadays I don't doubt there's a huge overlap between gamers and Maiden fans because we're all nerds on some level. Back in the mid to late 90s, I don't think that's so true. Like the Maiden fans who have stuck around at that point are probably more fans from the 80s and probably less tied to video games and didn't grow up with video games so much. So it definitely also seems like a push to try and kind of encourage a younger audience to get involved in Iron Maiden, right?
Yeah.
Particularly announcing it as part of the best of compilation.
Yeah, that's a good. Yeah, I think probably trying to target that younger audience is probably a big part of it, actually.
Yeah. So we know that Melt's in development in 1996.
Well, I think it's just about to come out.
Well, yeah, and it's apparently about to come out. We don't know who developed it. All I could find was some information about who published it, a company called American Softworks, who, to be honest, didn't seem to have much to their name, although they did publish Grand Theft Auto, the first one, in America only. but they didn't develop it or anything. Obviously, that was Rockstar, big famous UK company. But Melt is seemingly nearly ready, right? There's not a huge amount of information available about the development itself, but the game itself did go and get previewed by quite a lot of games media. So stuff like Games Master, Computer and Video Games Magazine. It got a surprising amount of coverage. So in mid-96, Computer and Video Games Magazine previewed Melt not as a PC game, but as a PlayStation game. Again, implying that, they're trying to get onto the cultural zeitgeist. And basically their preview is a single screenshot of Eddie's 3D face in sort of made out of like red fire, and a very short description, which is, while searching to kill Eddie, the ultimate evil, you will travel through 50 different worlds and attempt to take his energy pods before he destroys the universe. Fans will also be interested to know Melt will be featuring great music by Iron Maiden. That's the entirety of their preview. And it reeks of like someone sent them a press release with very little information, not even a build of the game to try out. And that's all they can say. But it says at that point in, I think this is summer of 96, it says it's coming out in Q4 of 96. So like you say, it's meant to be imminent. But it misses that release window, perhaps unsurprisingly. So it ends up featuring in the TV show Games Master at the beginning of 97 in February, which, for those of you who haven't heard of Games Master, it was a UK TV show where celebrities and their in-house presenters played video games live on air. In fact, not live, but pre-recorded on air against each other and did like little quick previews and reviews of various games. It's sort of like if you imagine a modern YouTube review channel channeled through 90s lad culture and and Cool Britannia and Spaced.
Nice.
It's that kind of show. It is dated horrendously.
Who presented it again? It was...
what's his name? Dom
Jolly?
No, not Dom Jolly. That's Trigger Happy.
Yeah,
TV
that's what
guy.
I thought. I didn't think it was Dom Jolly.
Diamond or something.
Oh, okay.
Dominic Diamond, I think. Something like that. But they did a full review of Melt in February 97.
Oh, so they played it on air?
They showed some clips of it and someone reviewed it.
So basically, Melt got as far as a playable game that I know wasn't commercially available to the public, but people played.
It seems
Melt.
like it's done.
Right, okay.
Why don't we just hear what they said about Melt?
Finally, Melt on the PC. I know absolutely nothing about this game, but it doesn't really matter because it's supposed to be pish.
Everyone knows Eddie, Iron Maiden's zombie mascot, and in this game he's the bad guy. You've got to travel through time, through different planets, finding pods to make yourself powerful enough to find Eddie in hyperspace and defeat him. The idea of Melt's certainly an interesting one, giving yourself a set time limit in which to complete the game and having to really hunt around for things. Unfortunately, I prefer my games to have a bit more action and be a bit more fun than this.
If you want to know what Rick thought
So
of
yeah,
this
that
game,
looks
you can
pretty, what do they say? Pish.
Pish, yeah. I mean, yeah, you just having shown me that now, why do you have to kill a penguin?
I don't know.
Why is there gameplay? What has that got to do with Iron Maiden? And
There's no visual reference for anyone listening at home, but there is a penguin being shot at some point by the player.
I just don't see. Okay, you've got to defeat Eddie. That's fine, but Eddie's got what, an army of penguins, and you've got to kill a penguin, and then you're in space. Yeah, it seemed like an awful affair.
Yeah, and that's the most footage I've been able to find of it anywhere. There doesn't seem to be that much like left of Melt, basically. But interestingly, they say the game was meant to come out in March, so March 97. It's now moved from PlayStation to PC for reasons undisclosed. But yeah, it doesn't come out in March 97.
No, and it's interesting it goes from PlayStation to PC, because PlayStation was clearly the zeitgeisty console, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You'd imagine.
Although PC gaming was pretty big at that point as well.
Yeah,
But,
and I guess it's more universal. You're more likely to have a PC in your house than you are to have a PlayStation. But
yeah, but it's less of the zeitgeisty thing, right? But it misses this March release window, surprising no one. And there's just a few months of silence until at some point IronMaiden.com finally announced the cancellation of Melt, stating that it had been scrapped, but a new game would come out in the following spring. So now we're talking about a new game coming out spring 98.
okay,
Almost 2 years after the original release date. but they quote Blaze explaining the scrapping with, "It was crap. Maiden wanted to give their fans something to blow them away. This new one will."
Yeah.
Sure. Blaze goes on to
That's a high
describe.
bar, Blaze.
Yeah.
Bar's real high.
Yeah.
This is going to be good.
Yeah. So Blaze goes on to describe the new game, which turns out to be Ed Hunter, stating that it's nearly there. He says, "You've got to get Eddie through time and space, heaven and hell, the works. It's a shoot 'em up, which we promise will outshoot them all."
Big talk.
Probably too big.
Yeah.
If I'm honest.
I mean, because again, I'll be totally honest, I've not done a huge amount of research into this, but I did, just by the way of comparison,
Yeah.
I did wonder, when did Time Crisis come out? Okay.
That's like 96.
Yeah,
in the
well,
arcades.
the arcade is out in 95. It's out on PlayStation in 97.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I had it as a PlayStation game in 97.
Nice.
I must have got it for Christmas that year.
What
So,
a great Christmas present.
Oh, what a good-
Incredibly inappropriate for an 8-year-old boy.
Christmas 97 was good. Yeah, I got that. I got PlayStation.
Did you get it with the gun?
Yeah, with the gun and the pedal.
Yeah. See, I've got all of that except the pedal. I don't have the pedal.
Oh, damn.
Nowadays.
I might. No, I don't have a pedal anymore. But yeah, I got that. I got Tomb Raider.
Yeah.
And like an obligatory, like moto, like rally car.
You're a very spoilt child.
Oh yeah,
that's my take out here.
my life peaked in the late 90s.
Yeah.
It's been slowly downhill since 97. Really, I thought, wow, it can't get much better than this, and I was right.
Yeah. But you're right to bring up Time Crisis as like an analog of, what kind of arcade style shooters were out at the time.
Yeah.
That's kind of where the bar is, right? But yeah, so Ed Hunter's announced. We find out a little bit about the game's development. We find out it's being made by a studio called Synthetic Dimensions, who are a UK-based game developer, because I think at this point Iron Maiden wouldn't work with anyone outside of the UK. I don't know. Kind of seems like their jam. But I couldn't find... Well, no. I found like a list of games Synthetic Dimensions worked on. I'd never heard of any of them, if I'm honest. And they seem to specialize in porting games from the arcade to home consoles more than anything else. So whilst a well-regarded developer, maybe not one with a huge amount of pedigree.
But it's worth saying that the UK's game industry, even in the 90s, was quite globally well respected, right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
They've got plenty of choice of great games developers in the UK to go to.
Yeah, I mean, the UK at that point had Rockstar doing things like Grand Theft Auto. You had companies like Bullfrog, who were huge. Guildford in general was quite a big game development scene around then. So yeah, the UK had a really strong games industry, particularly focused on PC. But yeah, a lot of this game will reek of budget, I think. And I suspect Synthetic Dimensions were probably cheap. But yeah, the press release that Maiden put out says the game has been in development since early 96. So I assume it also overlapped development with Melt. So they were promoting Melt whilst developing a new game, knowing that Melt sucked, basically. Seems to be the takeout. So we've got this new replacement game. It's meant to be a proper shoot 'em up. It's coming out spring of 98. It's replacing a game that was so bad that Iron Maiden scrapped it. Even though it seems, for all intents and purposes, the game was basically finished. Things look sort of positive. That feels like a good quality control call.
Yeah.
Until they don't. Because then the game gets pushed back to Christmas 98.
Okay.
6 months later. Not the end of the world, but there are, at this point, quite important rumblings in the Maiden camp, Christmas 98.
Yes.
Which, we touched on in previous episodes. That's when the formal discussions about Bruce coming back kick off. And then he's back in the band January 99, basically.
Yeah.
And I think that derails the entire release of Ed Hunter around Christmas, right? Because it's a confusing proposition to put the game out at that point. And I guess it gets its final release date of July 99. And it does come out then. That's over a year later than when Ed Hunter was set to release. That is nearly 3 years after the original release date of Melt. So it's taken a long time for this game.
It comes out in July 99. Bloody hell.
It takes a long time for this game to come out. And to put it all into perspective, I guess if it had come out in early 98, it would still very much be in the vanguard of like that fifth generation of gaming, your PlayStations, your N64s, your Saturn. But games at that point were already reaching a new peak of development. You had stuff like, I don't know, like in 98, you had Resident Evil 2 come out. You had Tekken 3, Crash Bandicoot 3, all these big, high quality, cutting edge technology games. On PC, you had Half-Life come out by the end of the year. On N64, you had The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. I think GoldenEye is already out at that point.
Yes, yeah.
These are all sort of genre-defining titles.
Oh, and also the games of our youth, Sam. GoldenEye.
Yeah, I mean, these are all great games. But
I don't remember at the time anyone talking about Ed Hunter.
No, I mean, I never heard about Ed Hunter until like the early 2000s, right? When I got into Maiden. But yeah, so you have all these high-quality games coming out on that generation of consoles in 98. And then as 98 progresses, in Japan, the Sega Dreamcast releases, which is like 4 times more powerful than the PlayStation. So there's going to be a whole new technology leap by 1999 when the Dreamcast comes out stateside and in Europe, and the PlayStation 2 is on the horizon. So it's in the time it's taken for Ed Hunter or Melt or any game to come out, everything has moved on so much.
Yeah.
And by the time Ed Hunter comes out in 99, it's not good. It's really weird. So it moved to PC. PC is more powerful than home consoles, and you could have like a really strong 3D graphics game. You don't have that with Ed Hunter. With Ed Hunter, you have this weird arcade-styled first-person shooter where all the graphics are pre-rendered, which means they're basically flat graphics, static animations. Nothing's actually 3D. You can't move around. Everything's sort of like video footage. It's sort of like an interactive film in some ways.
Well, it's almost like if you think of a game like Wolfenstein, right? You could at least move around in Wolfenstein.
Yeah.
You had some autonomy. Like I was watching the playback on YouTube of someone going through the Ed Hunter game, and I have a copy of the Ed Hunter game.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I've got a PC that will run it anymore. But in the mid to late 2000s, they were still selling it in shops.
Yeah.
Like I bought it in a shop, bizarrely, like what anyone would have made of that game at the time. But I did install it, and it's just literally all you can do. I mean, the keyboard is redundant, right?
Yeah,
There's no function to your keyboard at all. It is just point and click.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, other than the graphics, it's almost like dragging and dropping files. It's just like point, click, click, click. And it moves so slowly, there's no jeopardy because it's so easy to like defeat the enemies because everything just moves at like half speed. So, okay, something else, click on that.
Yeah.
Click, it's dead. Click, dead. And that's just the whole gameplay.
It's a really static game, right? And like you said before, at this point, Time Crisis has come home.
Yeah.
I think this year, the House of the Dead gets a PC release, and I had House of the Dead on the PC.
Yeah.
And like, again, you're using a mouse to do the shooting, but you know, that game had dynamism. It's real 3D environments. You're swinging around. Things are changing all the time.
And even Time Crisis, it had a fairly corny story, but it had a storyline with like little...
I love the Time Crisis story. What's his name? Like Sharado something.
Sharado.
Guy with like knives in his hands. Great.
There's been a kidnapping. It's Rachel, the daughter of the president of Sersia. Get into the castle and rescue Rachel.
Well, so I'm not clear Ed Hunter has any semblance of a story other than...
So
if it moves, click and kill it.
You are slightly wrong there.
I apologise. Sorry, I need to. Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, Ed Hunter comes out and already looks very dated by the time it comes out. I think, I guess ultimately to give a bit of context about the game itself, we touched on it being sort of a first-person shooter style thing, like an arcade shooter, like Time Crisis. Yeah. But the story of it is you're a detective who has received some shady money to find someone called Eddie and freeing them. And that's kind of it. And then you're just following Eddie through all these different scenarios, from the East End of London to...
the West End of London.
The West End of London.
South East London.
Like, I can't even remember. You go to like the Power Slave Pyramid, which kind of looks cool at points. You go to Shady Pines Psychiatric Asylum, which is maybe the most boring level I've played in anything in my whole life. There's a few other things. You go to hell, you fight the devil briefly.
Sure.
And then you go to somewhere that's sort of trying to look like the Somewhere in Time album cover, but without the technology to look anything like the Somewhere in Time album cover. And instead just looks like some oblongs with some neon lights. So that's fun. But yeah, it's all schlocky and suitably on theme for Maiden. And at points it can look kind of fun, and there's lots of nice little Easter eggs and stuff in it. But I think, as you touched on, what makes it so unbearable is the gameplay is so slow, it's so boring and so monotonous. That Shady Pines Asylum level, you go into like this lobby room and you're in there for like 15 minutes just shooting the 2 different enemies over and over again whilst listening to Prowler on repeat. So every level has a individual track,
but like an 8-bit Prowler, right?
No, it's CD audio.
Oh, it's CD audio.
So,
right. So it's
that is the best thing about the game.
That's a redeeming feature.
Proper versions of the song, but by the 5th time you hear Prowler and you're shooting a mad scientist, all the joy in your life is gone. Yeah, like I was doing this last night to remind myself of the game podcast. And as a new parent, I have very limited free time. Yeah. I lost an hour of my life playing this stupid game. And I mean, it wasn't worth it.
That is dedication to the podcast, Sam. So fair play.
Yeah.
And arguably you didn't need to do that. But
I just wanted to remind myself how annoying it was. The last time I played it, when I originally prepared these notes, was 6 months ago. So...
But is it also worth pointing out at the stage that the game is not just released as a standalone game, right? It's part of a 3-disc package.
Yeah.
So we also get, like 3 years after they've last done this, just another Maiden best of?
Yeah.
With a game, just to confuse the release even more. You almost think they should have had the courage of their convictions and gone, no, this is a game. Whereas it almost felt like it became, okay, here's a fairly superfluous best of, albeit the songs were voted for by the fans, weren't they? Yeah. The website, which is another little tip of the hat to, it's technology, the internet, an online vote. But of course, the fans choose exactly what.
just choose the famous Iron Maiden songs. Yeah,
just do a very conventional Iron Maiden best of. And then it almost feels a bit like there's a game tacked onto the back of it.
Yeah.
As if they're almost trying to bury the game behind a best of. It's a very confusing sell, isn't it?
By the time Ed Hunter comes out, it's clearly an afterthought, right? Like, it's been delayed so many times, and it's now being sort of awkwardly tied into this quote-unquote reunion tour with Bruce, and they just need a product to release at the same time that, can promote the tour. I think they know the game itself is pants, but a best of will sell enough to be a promo item.
Well, I'm actually looking at the cover of the Ed Hunter CD, the one I have, and it's interesting the way. So it says Iron Maiden Ed Hunter. Then on the disc it also says double album of Maiden top 20 of all time plus Ed Hunter PC CD-ROM game.
Yeah,
it's almost a bit like, here's a best of. And there's also a computer game. You might want to give that a go, but. At the same time, don't stress about it. Like, just the music's good, guys. The music's good. The game, but these are good songs. So
what it makes me think of is in the late 90s, and I think like at the turn of the millennium, sometimes with like children's cereal, you would get a CD-ROM with them, and like they would have like a very bare bones game or like some
CD-ROM and everything in the 90s. They didn't.
Yeah, exactly.
Box of cereal, magazine, just whack a CD.
That's kind of the quality of this is cereal box CD-ROM quality.
Yeah,
right. It's a bit of a throwaway experience overall, and I mean, tellingly, I can't find any contemporary reviews of Ed Hunter in like gaming press at all. I think it's interesting because Melt got coverage, but Ed Hunter didn't seem to get any coverage. I imagine by the time Ed Hunter came out, novelty had worn off, and I imagine Iron Maiden didn't promo it to Games Press, basically. Although, having said that, if anyone listening has seen contemporary reviews of it, I'd love to read them.
Love to see them.
I've seen retrospective reviews that are damning. That's not surprising. So that's kind of the weird history of Ed Hunter. You have this weird thing with Melt Melt's development and then sort of dovetailing into Ed Hunter. Ultimately, it's kind of seemed all like a PR move where a tanking mid-90s Maiden desperately tried to remain culturally relevant. But by the time the game came out, they actually didn't need to do that anymore because they'd got buzz off the back of bringing Bruce back. So the game just becomes this huge afterthought. And it's really bizarre.
Do you want one final little fun Easter egg, though, about
Absolutely, yeah.
So in terms of the music side of it on the album, I didn't appreciate this until very recently. There is a bonus track on the US version, which is a 1999 version of Wrathchild with Bruce Dickinson on vocals.
Interesting.
Yeah. I'm not... It might be even just Bruce laying down a vocal over the old backing track. I'm not sure if it's even a new version of the song.
Yeah.
It's there on YouTube, folks. Go check it out. So that if you have a little search for the 1999 Wrathchild.
So you think it's the original recording of Wrathchild, but with the vocal track taken off and Bruce just laying down in
Well, only because they advertised it as new vocal version.
Oh, yeah, then it's definitely that.
Yeah.
That sounds incongruous.
Yeah.
Incongruent?
I mean...
Weird.
Yeah.
Whatever the word is.
It was all going on for Maiden in the late 90s, wasn't it? They didn't know what the hell they were doing. But yeah.
Really didn't. Until Bruce came back and then they seemed to get on a solid...
They all forgot about Ed Hunter.
Yeah.
Wrote some good albums. Played some good shows.
Yeah.
Then did Legacy of the Beast. And not sure if did anyone play it? Don't know. You played
think it had a decent user base.
Oh, good.
But yeah, I don't
Why is it being mothballed then?
'Cause, I mean, I guess it's been out for, 7-8 years?
Yeah.
And so as a live service game, it's probably not got enough users anymore to justify keeping it alive. But yeah, who knows? So that was quite in-depth history of Ed Hunter. But
I liked it.
Yeah, I feel like there's not any other in-depth history of Ed Hunter. So why not us, you know?
Well, indeed. What are we here for if not to give the people more Maiden than anyone wants or needs?
Exactly. More information than anyone could possibly enjoy.
You don't have to thank us, everyone. But if you do want to thank us, Kofi, hello.
You are such a mercenary.
You can, yeah, it doesn't work, does it?
No. Well, that's not true. Some people have been generous.
Thank you, those people. Yes, we are incredibly
very kind
grateful
of
to you. Unlike you other sponges. Sorry, carry on, Sam.
Jesus, Blevin. So that kind of brings us to the end of the season.
Indeed. End of
that was the
season
last thing. 3? Yeah, that was the last thing we were going to cover for season 3. I guess as part of the wrap up of that, we can go through the scores, the rankings of all the albums so far. Yeah, we're not ranking Ed Hunter. That's just for fun. Yeah. I'm not putting that on an official...
This is our idea of fun, everyone. Just let that sink in.
It is a Friday night and we're recording
It is actually a Friday night. This is what fun looks like to us.
It's just sitting in a room, talking into the void about a game no one wanted to play.
I mean, at least I'm drinking, so hopefully you're at home too. I'll make this.
So now we've covered 12 albums. 12 albums? 12 albums.
Yeah, sounds about right.
There's a big chunk of the discography. There's not actually that much left to cover.
Well, no, because they get fewer and further between as we get on.
Yeah.
You know, so even though we've still got a good...
But the albums get so much longer.
Yeah, the albums get longer, but we're actually looking at another 25-year period ahead of us.
Wow.
But there's so... relatively
There's so much
fewer
less
albums.
than that.
There's so much less of it. We've actually only done the first 20 years. We've got another 25 years
Still got the majority of their career to do, but there's...
But not the majority of the music.
5-6 albums or something.
Yeah. 5?
God's Death, Matter, Life and Death.
Final Frontier, Book of Souls, and Jutsu. Yeah, 5.
Yeah.
And then...
It's terrifying.
Wow. Who knows?
Okay, so what do you think is in... I mean, these rankings aren't going to be majorly different from last time, but what do you think is in 12th place?
It's got to be Virtual.
Oh, it has changed, yeah.
Has it?
Yeah, of course it's changed, yeah. What's in 12th place?
Well, it's got to be Virtual 11, sure.
It is Virtual 11. What is in 11th?
Now... Is it No Prayer for the Dying?
No, not quite.
Is it X Factor?
It is X
X
Factor.
Factor. Yeah. I mean, I'm personally, I'm glad. But
Yeah.
yeah.
And then, 10th
Prayer
is
for the
No
Dying.
Prayer for the Dying. In 9th, we have Fear of the Dark.
Yeah, that's about right.
I should say these.
Although I really like Fear of the Dark.
Yeah. This ranking is based on the average of our individual scores. So this is a mutually agreed ranking.
Well, no, that's not. Well, no. What it means
A
is
mutually calculated ranking.
my great takes are undermined by Sam's weak takes, is what I would
Yeah,
say.
but it sort of all works out in the averaging.
It does,
out,
yeah.
right? So that was 10, right?
I thought it was 9.
That was 9? Mm-hmm. Yes, that was 9. Number 8. Who do you think we have?
Killers?
It is Killers.
Yeah.
Number 7 is Brave New World.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 6.
Is it Iron Maiden? The self-titled?
It isn't. It is
it
Peace of Mind.
Okay, good.
With an average score of 8 between us. We both just gave it 8.
Yeah.
So that explains
Fair.
the average. Then we're down to the top 5. At number 5, we have.
Iron Maiden.
Yeah.
I'm just glad it's in the top 5. I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that is a top.
Oh, I wonder if that will change.
It better bloody not.
Really interesting if it changes. Then at
I love
number
the debut
4,
album. Number 4. Oh, this is where it gets interesting now. I'm actually.
these rankings haven't changed since the last season.
Yeah, it's just
to be honest.
can
the
I
top
remember?
5 is exactly the same.
Can
So
I
this is
remember what I
just
said?
treading a beaten path here.
Is it actually? It's not Number of the Beast, is it?
It isn't. It is Somewhere in Time,
Oh, okay.
which I'm disappointed.
Yeah, because you gave that a whopping
I gave it 9.
9. Yeah.
You gave it 8.5.
That's
So
still
that brings
good.
it down to 8.75,
Yeah, they're all great.
Yeah.
Aren't they, let's be honest from this point in.
which gives us a number 3 of Power Slave
Great.
at 8.8.
Although that would probably be my number 2, but okay.
You see, I gave it 7.8. and You gave it 9.8.
Yeah,
so
too
that's why.
Good.
Then number 2 is Number of the Beast.
Beast.
And number 1, which I don't think will ever change, is Seventh Son of the Seventh Son.
Unless we both give Final Frontier 11 out of 10.
11.
Hey, I've got some very strongly positive things to say about the Final Frontier.
Yeah, I've got some positive things.
Do you see there was it Metal Injection? One of those websites recently did a sort of a vote open to whoever follows them on social media.
Yeah.
And they asked them to rank 21st Century Maiden albums.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we'll come back to it, but spoiler, Final Frontier came last.
Oh.
And I was like,
What?
Yeah, that's not.
Wait.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, no, I hard disagree with that.
That's not good.
Well, that's the end of the season.
We're
just gonna end on that.
The exasperated
Real-
well.
God.
Shouldn't we tell the people, Sam? We've already told them to follow us on social media, but follow us on social media.
Follow us on Blue Sky at Maiden Pod. We're still on X for now at Maiden Pod. We have an email account that we apparently repeatedly gave the wrong email address for on this
Right.
podcast, but it's maidenvoyagerspod@gmail.com.
Excellent.
I think. I'm going to fact check that right now.
As you're fact checking that, you can also like and subscribe. We've had some very, people give this nice reviews. They on Spotify and stuff.
Oh, have they?
Well,
nice.
I say reviews, but
Oh, the rank- yeah.
the star rating's quite nice. It's like 4.8 or something.
Yeah, that's nice.
I mean, that's more than we deserve. Let's be honest.
We also at some point launched on YouTube as well.
yeah, great,
YouTube
well done.
podcasts. Got a few nice comments through there.
Great.
And if you want to listen there, you can listen there.
So what we're saying is, it's like we're really good, right? So just tell us how good we are.
Tell us how good we are. Tell your friends how good we
Tell
are.
your friends how good
Please
we are.
keep listening, even if we only put out an episode every few months.
Yeah, because when it does come, it will be
It is heavily researced.
Yeah, heavily
about
researched.
something no one cares about.
and it's as you remembered it. Let's put it like that.
It's familiar. You don't have to think too much.
Yeah.
We'll do all the talking.
It's as it has always been, as it always will be. Oh, should we also point out? Well, no, let's say that for the next episode, because going forward, we will at some point be getting into the next series, well into 21st Century Maiden, but we're also going to have a little news pod coming up, aren't we?
Yes.
Presumably after this one. So there'll be a little chance to, what's the word I'm looking for? To
a palate cleanser.
Palate cleanser.
To start the next season.
To clean the decks.
Speaking of palate cleansers, I forgot one thing we're meant to do, and I keep forgetting. Separate to Iron Maiden, do you want to tell the good folks what you're listening to at the moment?
Oh, yes, I do. Yeah, of course.
This was the new section we introduced a few episodes ago that neither of us ever remembers to do, because by the time we get to the end of the episode, we're both kind of like, wow, we've said a lot of words.
The feature that does not have a name other than this is something.
No, we should give it a name. But yeah, what other albums have you been... Give me one album that you're listening to recently that isn't Iron Maiden.
Well, I'm going to give you the album I was listening to literally on the walk to your house, Sam.
Ooh.
Which is an album called Black Blood by Abduction. Now,
Don't know.
Well, it came out in 2022, but I've listened to it because they've got a new album coming out this year, and they are playing in Fuel Rock Club tomorrow night. And I'm going to go see them. So a British black metal band. I feel like all black metal bands like to describe themselves as esoteric these days. And I don't think does anyone know what esoteric actually means?
Does it just mean like
a little
complex?
Well, yeah, there's
obscure.
There's a little bit of chanting and stuff, but no. But Abduction, not to be confused with the excellent Bruce Dickinson solo song.
No,
no, they're very good, and yeah. So give Black Blood a listen. Good UK black metal. Yeah, more interesting than your ordinary black metal fare. If you like black metal,
fair dues.
And if you don't, probably give it a miss. You're not going to like it.
Yeah, no, that tracks.
What about you, Sam?
I've been listening to something you recommended to me, which is
also esoteric.
Yeah, you've already guessed what it is. Yeah, it's Blood Incantation's latest album.
Yeah.
Absolute Elsewhere, is that what it's called?
Absolute Elsewhere, yeah.
I always forget its name. But what a weird album. It's proggy death metal, but instead of being, I don't know, death metal with long song arrangements, it's kind of very extreme death metal punctuated by very extreme 70s synthy progs, and just having like the contrast between the two extreme elements rather than merging them into something is great. I've really dug it.
It's like if David Gilmour listened to a lot of Entombed.
yeah, exactly. Here's the screaming, and then here's a theremin.
I'd love that. Can you imagine if David Gilmour just suddenly decided, like, you know what's great, guys? 90s death metal. Like, where's this been all my life? This is great.
It would just sound like really sincere 90s death metal, except the guitar solos will just be him doing traditional long bend Pink Floyd style solos. That's it.
No, but I totally back that Blood Incantation. And not the album before this is a bit of a weird one.
Okay.
That seemed to almost derail their career a bit. But yeah, it wasn't, it seemed to alienate a lot of their fans. But I got into them the one before that, which I think is called A Secret History of the Human Race.
That's the one with the alien on the cover,
yes,
right? Yeah.
which is great.
I've been meaning to listen to that.
Yes, The Secret History of the Human Race is also brilliant. But yeah, rightfully, they've got lots of plaudits for Absolute Elsewhere, because it's, I mean, even if you don't think you like extreme metal, listen to it, because I can guarantee it'll be like nothing else you've ever heard.
Yeah, it is like it is genuinely one of the most unique albums I've heard in a long time.
Yeah.
It's a cool album.
It is
cool
indeed.
Cool album.
Yeah. Happy days.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. Well, that's the end of this season. See you next one. Well, we won't see you.
Well, no, we won't see you.
But you know what I mean.
Well, you might see us at London Stadium.
That's true. Well, we'll touch on that next time.
Indeed.
Farewell.
Cheerio.